Hello, what's up, my good people? It's been a while. Proactive is the name of the show. Welcome back, Elsie.
Thank you.
It's been forever. We took a break, eh?
Yeah, 1 month, almost slightly more than a month.
A whole month. But it gave us time to also rethink what we're doing. Focus basically on what we want to give the people, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't a break ya kwenda Mombasa.
No,
sadly,
not really.
No. How are your exams?
My exam's okay. Finally nilimaliza.
You're
I'm done with 844.
Oh,
I'm
my
done with
goodness.
844.
So tunangoja tu keki.
Graduation.
Graduation.
The birthday next week. Yeah.
Is this you trying to hint to me that I need to prepare a present? I need to get ready with a present.
You know.
Well. Oh, man. Okay. But it's good to hear. Finally done with 844.
Yeah.
Sunny graduation.
Probably next year.
Next year, yeah. Hopefully tutakuwa tumemalizana na COVID.
I hope so. I really hope so.
So that we set up that tent and throw a good party. You know.
Yeah.
Happy birthday in advance.
Thank you.
Wait, when is your birthday?
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
Yeah.
So Saturday. I just need to know, guys, because we usually record on Saturday. I'm just trying to figure out if I am going to be ditched.
No. I will be here.
All right, cool. I've had, I haven't really taken a break because I was thinking through what we want to give the people. We gave them the Constitution and we gave them the preamble. We never gave anything beyond the preamble.
Yeah, it's about time they get to know what's there beyond the preamble.
Yeah, just getting to know beyond the preamble and getting to start thinking about chapter 1 and even all the 18 chapters as we go through them.
Yeah.
Because we've seen there's the conversation going on. It's been about amend it or implement it first. People saying, what's the rush for? And now COVID is not even helping the situation. It's even making it worse because now we're wondering where our priorities,
Yeah.
We have a budget for a whole thing to be amended, but we don't have
a budget to cover the medical costs for
Kenyans.
For we, the voters.
We know we are on our own. I'm like, surely. This is a pandemic and you tell us we are on our own. This is that point when even someone who doesn't have NHIF cover should also be covered because of this thing.
Yeah.
Because it's just introduced.
But even the ones covered by NHIF apparently will not get to
not
enjoy
be covered,
the cover, unless they are government employees. Wow.
And the virus has been bringing out conditions that people didn't know that were pre-existing in them. And now all of a sudden, if your cover you wrote you never had any pre-existing conditions, and then they find out that this was pre-existing, how will that go?
It's tough.
So such a frustrating thing,
Yeah.
And it's good to just think through these things and let the people know. We really need to change our scope and our perspectives on how we tackle these things. But then again, in the process of that 1 month break, we also figured out that, hey, people don't even know what's in the Constitution.
True.
People don't even know how many chapters are there in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to take a small break first, and then we're going to come back. I think that one was a good catch-up, trying to just know where we've been. Proactive is the name of the show. No. Before we go on a break, Blueprint was out,
Yeah.
Blueprint. Kenya's Blueprint was released. What did you think about it?
I got to listen to the first episode and I really liked it. I really liked it. Of course, I made some recommendations on probably how the hosts and there's only one host.
Oh, so
there's a narrator.
Nirushie tu kama unanirushia this.
Yeah, okay, so I thought that, maybe it would have been amazing if there were 2 narrators, maybe, for the variation in the voice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, my producer, this is you the CV is being dropped,
Yeah.
For the next episode all of a sudden.
But otherwise, I thought Blueprint was okay. After it's been promoted properly on Twitter, and of course, that's the conversation people need to have, other than, of course, the conversations about the constitution and all that. We need to also have conversations and discussions about where did we go wrong.
For sure.
Why aren't we where we were supposed to be back when we had these companies, back when we had KCC, back when we were taught that pyrethrum is a cash crop in Kenya? Why aren't we there? Back when, people used to grow cotton, and we are not where we are supposed to be right now. So we need to have such conversations.
We had a lot of
to our listeners, I'd really encourage you to listen to Kenya's Blueprint.
Yeah. Find out why we have so many sinking ships, and what's happening.
Exactly.
Guys, we're taking a small break just to allow sponsors, at some point. But we'll be back in a second.
Season 1 of the Kenya's Blueprint, we look at a colossus of an entity, Kenya Cooperative Creameries, KCC. We present the making, the journey, and the breaking of an empire. Weekly episodes on acute.co.ke. Subscribe to get notified once an episode is released.
And we are back. So after that nice catch up, now it's time to get down to business, Elsie.
Which is chapter 1 of the Constitution. Basically, sovereignty of the people and supremacy of the Constitution.
So ideally, wanamaanisha nini? What do they mean immediately wanasema sovereignty? Sometimes they use complex words, and I need someone from the hood to understand when they say sovereignty of the people.
Sovereignty.
Yes.
So when we talk about sovereignty, we're talking about power.
The people have the power.
Absolute power. Sovereignty denotes absolute power. So when we say sovereignty rests to the people of Kenya, we are talking about absolute power is vested in the people of Kenya.
How do you feel like at some point? Well, I think the biggest thing then people would ask is, if we have this power, why is it being abused? We always think that the power is for a few people.
Power is not really for a few people. It is for us. But as we start, discussing this constitution, then you will notice that Article 1.2 mentions that as much as... actually, I think it's important that I start from Article 1.1.
Getting into it. Ni mimi nimeanza kujump into... I'm skipping to part 3 instead of going in
No, but your question will be answered by question 2. By Article 2, I mean. So, Article 1.1... all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. So the absolute power belongs to us as the people of Kenya to make decisions, to decide things should be done this way and not this other way. It is for us, the Kenyans, to decide.
But people can't wake up in the morning and just decide we are going to do this.
Of course, it's going to be chaotic if we all wake up and exercise power. And that is why Article 1.2 talks about the people, because we, the people, have the power. We may, again, not may. Remember with advocates, that word may.
May is a strong word that we have. Yeah.
Exactly. You remember there are people who are talking about, there was an advisory that the CJ sent to the president, and he talked about, and people have been referring to the constitution, and people have been debating about the meaning of the word shall and may and all that. So here in this case it's may making it optional. It is not a must. So the people may exercise their sovereign power either directly or indirectly. Either or indirectly, and indirectly through democratically elected representatives. So when we say power belongs to a few, I will not really say that power belongs to a few. Because the few people who actually have the power, people who are exercising these powers on our behalf as the people who have the absolute power. So
we send representatives and we make them look like they are gods and kings, yet they are representing us.
Yet they are our representatives, yet they work for us. They're representing us. And whatever they do, wherever they do, in parliament, in the judiciary, in the executive, they have to do it to the best of our interest.
But this is the thing. People here make members of parliament look like they are gods and they are saviors of the nation, yet they're just representing our plights.
Yeah.
So that has been one of the biggest setbacks. They've done us such a favor
by coming up with some legislations that, work for us. They're not doing us a favor. They owe it to us.
He coming around and handing us 2,000 for that specific rally and then going away, or coming and what is the other thing that they do? Giving away mattresses and sijui water tanks and pressure for guys to open a car wash, making it look like they have saved us. Yet they're supposed to be representatives and not really saviors as they put. We are the ones to dictate what they should actually be going and asking for that we can use in this country.
Exactly.
I feel like people need to understand that. Like, I need to emphasize it a bit more because I know people just wait for someone because they think he's going to bring, you know, when you go to political rallies, or rather the rallies that we've seen from, because me sijai attend yoyote. I am not ready to attend a political rally. I don't know why. But I'm always on TV just seeing this guy. And there's always that whole idea. When you think about a Kenyan politician, the first thing is, ndawajengea mabarabara. Ndawaletea maji. Ndajenga mashule. Like, bro, chill. First and foremost, who told you we need a road? Like, we probably need a nice processing plant, and then from there you can build that road that leads to that place and to the main road before you start telling us we are going to build a road. I mean, some of the biggest success rates of politicians in this country is always about roads. Yet it's not always that we as the sovereign people,
the people with the sovereign power.
Yeah, the people with the sovereign power have asked for it. You just come, throw something in our face, and then we end up paying some loans that we didn't even expect to pay.
True.
That go and inflate. So people need to know that first and foremost, this thing that is there is representatives. The people that go there are just representing us as the people.
That is us exercising our absolute power indirectly through them.
Through them.
Yes.
And part 2 is integral for anyone to understand before we even tackle anything else, because we are the ones who are exercising this sovereign power.
Yeah.
It's not anyone else coming to tell us how to exercise this sovereign power or coming and putting it in our mouths and making us digest something.
Yeah.
It's us who decide and say that we are going to be the ones to exercise this sovereign power by electing these specific representatives to go and represent us.
Exactly.
Ish.
So this Article 1 was a subject of controversy back in 2017 and early 2018, around January 2018. We had the elections in 2017, and whatever happened. There was a disagreement between the then opposition and the government. And the time came when we'll have our own president, people's president.
The people's president.
That concept of a people's president was based on Article 1 and Article 2. That the sovereign power belongs to us, and so as the people, we shall decide who will be our president. So anyway, I'm not saying that was valid. If you ask me, really, I also wouldn't want to get much into that. I just want you guys to get an example of how people thought of sovereign power.
Okay. It makes more sense right now.
Yeah.
What do you think? Was there a people's president and an elected president?
No. Then I totally disagreed with it, but then that's just who I am. That's just my personal view. And why? Because Article 1:1 is clear that as much as sovereign power belongs to us as the people, and it is us to decide who shall be our president as the sovereign or as the people with the sovereign power, it also adds this sovereign power shall be exercised only in accordance with this constitution. So this constitution does not empower us to just wake up from one day to the next and to declare Timo shall be our president. It does not allow us to do that. It has to be done, in accordance with the principles of the constitution, and our constitution believes in democratic elections and all that.
All right. So let's take a break first, and then we come back to part 3, where it's sovereign power under this constitution is delegated.
Delegation of the sovereign power.
Yes. There are several state organs that are going to be delegated with this sovereign power that we have to follow through.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have a message? What's your story? What's your experience? Do you want to tell it? Email us at hello@acute.co.ke and let's make this a reality.
Visit our website and make sure to subscribe to get more of our amazing shows. Acute Media. Express yourself.
Delegated state organs.
Yeah, so the sovereign power is also delegated to specific institutions under the constitution. Institutions that have been established by the constitution. And these are institutions that exist in every typical constitutional democracy.
Okay.
And I'm sure you already know this. So when you are into a GHC, but I'm sure you...
Shots have been fired.
But I'm sure you are taught, because this is something we were all taught. Yeah, I mean, the social studies. The government is made up of 3 arms. The 3 arms of the government. The judiciary, the executive, and the legislature. Yes. So our sovereign power, according to our constitution in Article 3, shall be exercised through those 3 arms of the government. Parliament, executive, and the judiciary.
I think it's good to mention that there are also legislative assemblies that have to be there, and we need to...
Yeah, so of course, one of the hallmarks of the 2010 constitution is introduction of devolution. So introduction of devolution would also mean that exercising sovereign power will not just be limited to the national level, it also extends to the county level. So if we're talking about parliament, even the parliament at the county level, we're exercising sovereignty through it. If we're talking about executive at the national level, we also have an executive at the county level. And this has been highlighted by Article 4. Talks about sovereign power being exercised at both national level and at the county level.
And it's very important for guys to understand. So when we talk about it being delegated to the state organs, kuna venye zinapewa specific jobs to
they have specific jobs. For example, we all know judiciary interprets the law. So as the judiciary interprets the law, ukipeleka kesi hapo judiciary to the court and all that, you're asking the court, yes, to deal with that, to handle that dispute for you. But that judiciary got the power from you because it is your power that has been delegated to the judiciary.
They're just interpreting what we said, how things will be handled.
Yes.
All right. When it comes to parliament, what is basically their role?
The basic role of parliament is to make laws, make and amend laws, to legislate. Yeah.
And that's the problem I have. Unajua tunachaguanga watu wanaenda huko hata ikikuja kwa kuzimake na kuziamend.
Tukianza kudiscuss parliament timu, and we'll get there. Since we are going to discuss, this entire constitution, parliament has its own chapter, a chapter on its own. And as we go on, probably, let me just mention this. It might sound controversial, but you'll get to even know and understand that our parliamentarians are there to represent us and to make legislation, not to bring projects and all that. That's not their role. Their role is just to legislate.
And that's why they cling so much on this CDF thing, because they think it's their only thing that can actually get them to the people. But if the people understand the role of parliament, which you're going to discuss when it comes to that point, they need to understand who they're putting there in that office and why they're putting them there. You give someone something and then all of a sudden, the levels of embarrassment, shout out to Embakasi East people, is so frustrating, because you're wondering what kind of person did we take there,
that's right.
It's a frustrating thing, manze. And people need to just figure out who you are taking first and foremost, understand their roles before you put them there.
So we'll get there, our listeners, and you'll get to understand more about these institutions. But for now, what's important is that you understand that the powers they exercise courtesy of the absolute power that is ours as the people of Kenya.
I agree. I think the one thing that I love when it was exercised that the national level and the county level will have their own structures. It's a point where the national level can come and say something, and us as a certain county, we can say, hey, this is not working for us. We think of this as we need to do it in a different way. And we will be heard.
Yes.
And they will have a say.
That is the essence of devolution.
Yeah. And I think that was the biggest thing for me when that sovereign power was divided into those state organs and then given into that way where it can be exercised from the national level and from the county level, such that if a county feels that it's being neglected or it's being mishandled from a national level point, they can come in and say, excuse. Things need to change now.
This is how the people of this county want things
to be done. And this is they can fight for the resources in their land, not going only all of them to the national level, but also them having a share of it and even having a control of how it will be divided.
Yes.
That's so powerful for me. And I think that's one of the biggest and most one of those things I just love a lot about the constitution, the new constitution.
Yeah.
Look, let's move on to the supremacy of this constitution.
It's actually the last article. Chapter 1 and chapter 2 are very brief.
It's easier, but you know when you said part 1, article 1 part 1.
Article
1 ndio najaribu kusema 1 nashindwa. When you said all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya, ukakosa kumalizia the second part where they says and shall be exercised only in accordance
with the constitution,
with this constitution. And that was integral, because if we move on from there and talk about sovereign power and people think inatoka tu kwa nguvu zao, it's going to,
you get to know that, you see, this constitution is the boss. Yes, the power is with you, but the constitution is the boss.
Yeah, there's something that we have put there.
Yeah.
And you can't just go and pick up a language from anywhere and come with it saying the sovereign power lies in the people.
Yeah.
So someone can't put a whole county can't choose a mass murderer because they want mass murders. It's not there. It's not there to be. Like, we haven't agreed on what you're saying as everyone. We've said these specific things that need to be done. That's important for me. Tuende hapo.
Next, we talk about the supremacy of the constitution, like I mentioned, that
Yeah.
the constitution is the boss. But the supremacy of this constitution has already been brought out by Article 1.1. When we say as much as sovereign power is with us, it can only be exercised in accordance with the constitution. So sovereign power exercised contrary to the constitution is null and void. Yeah.
And it's important there's so many things they're putting there. It makes me feel nice, because no person may claim or exercise state authority except as authorized under this constitution. And that's where
the constitution is at the pedestal of any society, of our constitutional democratic society as Kenya. The constitution is up there. So anything done contrary to the constitution is null and void.
And that's where I think when other guys were coming with that bone of contention and putting that whole idea, when you're talking about people's president versus elect president, I think that was one of those parts I was like,
so who's supposed to be the president?
Who's supposed to be where is that defense coming from? If it's just that one line that's bringing the people's president, we need to be very cautious about it.
And that's why, other than getting to hear that this is what the constitution provides, take time, read the constitution yourself. And that's why we're even here, to help you understand.
So that we can define it even more.
Yes. That's why we are here. Now, on the supremacy of the constitution, like I mentioned, just by the word supreme, it means the constitution, supremacy. The constitution is supreme. Talk about Supreme Court.
You can't be hanging like court. That.
To Article 2.
I get.
Supremacy of the constitution. So this constitution of Kenya is the supreme law of the republic. Supreme law. When you talk about law, mtu anasoma law, anybody will tell you that the constitution is the law. Even me, when I knew I'm going to study law, I thought I'm only going to study the constitution, only for me to get to law school na nikapata, other than the constitution, there are other laws, but the constitution is still the mother of all laws.
Okay.
You get?
Okay, now I get. That's why. That's what they mean when they say supreme.
Yes.
I thought we were even continuing with the articles, in that part. So that supremacy tena tumerudi wapi. But I wanted to go.
So I just wanted our listeners to understand.
Yeah.
Supremacy. What we mean by saying the constitution is supreme. Why the reference is always made to the constitution, and why this constitution is not just for the lawyers and the law students, like I always say. It is for every Kenyan to understand. Because it is binding. It binds all persons and all state organs and at both levels of government. Yeah.
I think that's where part 3 comes now and says the validity or legality of this constitution is not subject to challenge before any court or other state organ.
That's true. So nobody can go challenging the legality or the validity of the constitution.
I mean, that would be weird,
I don't know what to equate this constitution to. Nafanya hivi, but our listeners can see. But
Okia Omtata can shut down everything else, but can't shut down the constitution.
Yeah. You just can't go and say such a chapter is invalid, because it is already in the constitution. We voted for it. It was promulgated, and now it is binding as it is. Yes.
The people chose it. And so it's a bit hard for you to try and challenge something that the people...
So it is... The only thing I can equate it, okay, not really equating it to, but yeah, you see the way we Christians believe the word of God
Yeah.
is in the Bible. And it is the way, venye tu your Bible iko, that is the word of God as it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
get-
similarly,
Yeah.
for us now, when it comes now to, of course, our society being governed by the law, we take this constitution as it is, because it is valid, it is supreme, its validity cannot be questioned.
All right. Let me. Part 4 for me was very interesting because we are such cultural people.
Yeah, of course, and our constitution acknowledges that Kenya is a country that is made up of various communities with different cultures. Yeah. Yeah. We have 42 tribes, amani 45. Tumefika 45, I think.
Sio 47 nkwadhani hata tumefika 47.
Sijui hata. But you see, all those 47 tribes, we all have our ways of doing things. Yeah? And even some of these communities, like let's say the Luya community, they have sub-communities. Again, each of them have their own unique way of doing their things.
To an extent, even how they talk is very different.
Yes.
It's just that they come from. So for me, it was very tough, especially because we've had a struggle with things like FGM for the longest time here in this country. And when they say any law, including customary law, that is inconsistent with this constitution is void to the extent of the inconsistency, and any act or omission in contravention of this constitution is invalid.
Exactly. It's just everything we've been saying, that anything you do that is contrary to the constitution, null and void, invalid.
For sure.
Yeah.
So how do
So
we
now-
go and tell these people like
Any law,
any law?
including customary law. So our constitution acknowledges the place of customary law. The place of customary law. And so even customary marriages, for example, are recognized. You know, like you come from the Kikuyu community, well known to you for the Rora shows, and it's a process, the itaras and all that. The law will acknowledge that is a marriage, and they'll even issue a marriage certificate. And if they have to divorce, they can divorce in accordance with the customs of Kikuyu. If the Kikuyu recognize divorce and this is how divorce should be done and all that, the law will acknowledge it.
Until it
But then
gets
to the extent that whatever, the provision of now the Kikuyu custom law contravenes the provision of the constitution. I will give you an example. Now, I don't know much about the Kikuyu, but I know most of the...
you don't know much about the Kikuyu. You
The
went on
Kikuyu-
a roll talking about how
No, but I don't know much about your customs. But
Okay.
what I know, most Kenyan communities, including my own community, are patriarchal. The man is the head of the family. The man is, the man is the thing, and women are more or less insignificant. But then this constitution, remember, it also emphasizes on 2/3 gender rule, gender equality, and I think I might have mentioned during our past episodes, Article 45 of the Constitution, that talks about parties to a marriage being equal at the time of the marriage, during the subsistence of the marriage, and at the dissolution of the marriage. Do you know it's different from our culture?
it's not gonna go that way.
Yeah, it's the man who we live in patriarchal societies.
For sure.
Our communities are very patriarchal.
But I think-
so now, to the extent that customary law might be unfair to the woman because it believes the woman is inferior to the man. To that extent, that customary law, that practice, it contravenes this constitution. Hence, it is invalid.
But I agree
You understand
with
what
you
I
for
mean?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen places that it has made sense because at the end of it all, there were people who are actually about to be chased away from land that they have lived forever because their husband died, and all of a sudden their brothers want to come and claim back that land.
Yes.
But just because the constitution is there, they were able to defend themselves and the man's offsprings, and something was left, and they were able to get back the land. I think the constitution also, to some it also helps you so that you cannot be
Discriminated against on the
Yeah.
basis of gender.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Discriminated is the word that I was looking for sure.
Yeah.
The general rules of international law shall form part of the law of Kenya.
Yes, that is Article 2.5, and I think it is important to couple it with Article 2.6. Any treaty or convention ratified by Kenya shall form part of the law of Kenya under this constitution. So Article 2.5 and Article 2.6 basically talk about international law, the place of international law in Kenya. So yes, as much as we have our constitution being the mother of all laws in Kenya, even international law, this is the law that governs this country. It is higher, slightly higher than the local law.
Yeah.
So Article 2.5 and Article 2.6, academically speaking, Does that make sense?
That's the good
In the field of academia.
Umetoka tu kumaliza shule sasa bado ijatoka kwa system,
Anyway, so in the field of academia, Article 25 and 26 are also quite controversial, even in the courts. They're quite controversial because, one, Article 25 implies that any international law that Kenya, of course, has ratified, for any law to apply in Kenya, Kenya must ratify it, automatically becomes the law of Kenya.
Yeah.
For example, the UN Charter, the United, for us to belong to be members of the United Nations, we had to sign the UN Charter and agree to be bound by the UN Charter. Or for the ICC to even, come and exercise their powers.
But then that's the one that I was going to make it relatable for people.
The ICC, there's a statute. It's called the ICC statute, Rome statute. So basically, it's let me just break it down now for us because we are ordinary Kenyans.
Bana.
See, unasikianga act of parliament. An act of parliament is the law. Any people came together, our parliamentarians, they came, waliandika, and now that is the law. So similarly, at the international level, we send representatives. We send our ambassadors, we send our delegates, we send people to the UN or to wherever they want to meet. They come up with a document. It could be a human rights document. It could be any document touching on anything. Just know that any agreement between two countries is like a treaty. And they agree this is how we are going to deal with our things.
And it's important to note that we've seen people signing something and also pulling out of it at some point.
Oh, yeah. But they say, I think US recently pulled out of the Paris Agreement.
Yeah. So,
that is it.
We say for sure. And remember, even during ICC, first thing we did, we were trying to pull.
I think we were
still... but it wasn't us able to quite clear about this.
See, absolute power. See, we had already delegated. Timothy, we had already delegated.
No, let's just make it clear. Some representatives that were sent.
Now, Timo, allow me to correct you.
Okay.
These representatives who are trying to pull out were our representatives. So at the international level, they're not checking at I don't know that you should mention names, but I think I can.
Let's just say the suspects.
No, don't call them suspects. No, at the international level, they're not looking at things from the perspective of Uhuru Kenyatta wants to pull out of. Because he can't. Who is he? But in his capacity as the president of Kenya, at the international level, because he's our president, he represents Kenya. So what they will say is Kenya wants to pull out of the ICC statute. Kenya wants to sign out. To listen to nakubali, but sasa we want to sign that we are out.
For sure, I agree that part.
That is Kenya. Like, akitembea, hiyo ni Kenya inatembea. It's called the principle of extraterritoriality.
I agree for sure. And that's what I've been trying to say. Like, at the end of the day, we really have to be careful about the representatives that we send. Are they for sure representatives?
So now, as he does that, as he signs out, so he hasn't signed out yet, but if he does sign out, that will mean all Kenya we have agreed tumekubali sisi tunatoka ICC.
Wow.
You get? So that's how it works. So now we are bound by these treaties. An agreement between two states or even two or more states, it's called a treaty. Treaty or a convention, but others are referred to as charters, others are referred to as acts, like this African Union Constitutive Act. We have human rights documents. I'm sure you've heard the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Those are just states agreeing. Now, going forward in our country, we will be observing human rights. Going forward in our country, this and that will be happening. Yes.
It's good that you mentioned the agreement that was in Paris, because I think it was the one on
climate change.
Yes. And so people would relate to
US
it to
pulled out, and
understand.
people are wondering why is US pulling out and why,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
the US agreed to be bound by it, and I think it had provisions regarding this is how they're going to deal with carbon emissions and stuff like that.
And it was affecting their coal mines, for sure.
Yeah, so now, general rules, according to Article 25, the general rules of international law shall form part of the law of Kenya. So, we don't want to get deep into international law, but just as a listener, you need to know international law is regarded part of the law of Kenya. So whatever is provided for by the UN Charter is part of the law of Kenya.
How do you believe, like for me, as an ordinary person, what would be my biggest strong point? Like always checking out what's happening from what agreements are we making? Because you've said we usually send probably people in their ambassadorial parts, and they go and discuss these matters and then come back. As ordinary Kenyan, because in the constitution I said the general rules of international law shall form part of the law of Kenya. So how should I keep up with them? And at that point when I see, is this really working for us as Kenyans? Nikwe like, we wase mlienda mkasaini kitu yenye hatu agree.
Yeah, but now to be honest, I also can't really answer your question satisfactorily.
Okay.
Because, and I also don't want to get deep into the concept of international law and how this works. Because now when you check Article 2.6, it talks about any treaty or convention ratified by Kenya. Ratification, what is ratification? Ratification can involve this document that has been signed to be brought here to Kenya. The parliamentarians discuss it and then they agree. Hii tunaikubali ama hatukubali.
Okay.
And then to that extent, public participation then will, now the Kenyans, we will be able to take part in the discussions. Do we want to be bound by this document? Do we want to be subject, our country to be subject to a court that is based in The Hague, and they will be questioning our people for what they have done in our country? Ama in the alternative, kama tutaki ICC, we just allow our courts, the Supreme Court, ndikuwe na deal na such disputes. But waende nje, we deal with those disputes from within.
And we can, it's good to also add
public participation. But now, really, ratification, I've never really seen anyone being involved in ratification. Also, sijaiona kwa news ati Kenya is thinking about signing a certain, tunasikianga tu ati Kenya walipatana Maputo, walipatana Addis Ababa huko AU, wakasign African Continental. There's African Continental Free Trade Area. So there's an agreement to that extent. It's a treaty.
That was what I was trying to say. Because
why you asked as the ordinary Kenyan, kama unataka kuanza kuuza whatever you sell.
Hear me out. At times it's hard for us because hata tukikata, we know it comes with some penalties. Because these people who have agreed, all of a sudden they decide now they're going to put some penalties for us in terms of even trade restrictions. It always comes with a cost. Yeah. So I think it's always important, even as it goes there, we have already seen to what level, whether we agree or disagree with it, what it would cost us.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important part. But saa zingine hata hazitufiki, tunasikiaga tu kuna ingine ilifailiwa, unajua council on security, sijui council on what, tunakujaga tunasikiaga. Msalikam akafanya kitu, akaishia.
Kenya and Uganda have an agreement. I think we have an agreement with Uganda on something with SGR, I think.
Yeah,
I think that is a treaty.
Ideally, it was all the East African countries, and then all of a sudden, but let's not get into that, Yeah.
But at least now, I hope umeelewa how these international documents work and why countries of course, I think I once mentioned that the primary subjects of international law are the states.
Okay.
The states.
Okay.
So as individuals, we have little to do at the international level. It's sad, but it's a fact. There's not much we can do at the international level.
Well,
at the international plane, only countries take part. But of course, Kenya can't take part as Kenya, as we're just a territory. That's why we have a president. That's why we have a minister of foreign affairs. That's why we have ambassadors. They are the ones now.
So it's really important even thinking.
So ukiona Rachel Omamo anatembea, hapo unaweza muita Rachel Omamo, but akiwa huko US,
very different.
Wanaona Kenya inatembea. Akitembea hapo New York, Kenya inatembea.
Mpaka akona security nini.
Uhuru sijui ameenda France, sijui mnasikia story alone nini. That is Kenya. Huo si ati Uhuru anajua. He's not taking a personal loan.
By the way, while we were away
that is Kenya walking.
So while we were away on holiday, Kenya went to the Vatican.
Oh, Kenya went to the Vatican.
Kenya went to the Vatican, by the way.
So yeah. So don't say president. Okay, yes, President Uhuru went, but when he went there, that was Kenya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the jokes that were going around were very funny. So, but I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, I think where us as Kenyans come into play is who do we choose to go and represent Kenya?
Yeah.
That's the biggest part. And whoever steps into those areas and comes as a representative of Kenya, their knowledge or their expertise in that field needs to be considered. We can't just send anyone. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest part, where if we're going to send someone to represent the state and they go there as state, we need to also be very critical when it comes to their nominations and their selection.
Yeah, because
process.
they're nominated and they're selected by the executive, the person who holds the executive power.
Yeah.
And remember, that is a delegated power from us. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. The last part is my favorite part about chapter 1.
Article 3 on the defense of the Constitution.
Exactly. Yeah. And it says every person has an obligation to respect, uphold, and defend this constitution. Tuanzia hapa, obligation ni Kizungu.
Forget obligation. Every person does not matter whether you are rich or poor, you are tribe A or tribe B or tribe C. It does not matter if you are, tall or short, if you are the president or the ordinary Kenyan mama mboga.
Okay.
Every person has an obligation to respect, uphold, and defend this constitution.
The reason why I stopped at obligation is obligation compulsory, or is obligation something that we can say is by choice?
Compulsory. It is compulsory.
Mbona umeisema na sauti ndogo? You need to emphasize this
Okay.
thing because Kenyans don't need to
Compulsory.
understand this part. And the compulsory part is respect, uphold it,
And defend.
and defend it. Not just have a compulsory part where you accept that there's a constitution in this
It is
country.
not enough. You have to be ready to defend it.
For sure.
So you call out somebody who's contravening this constitution. And it is in that capacity that you find people calling out our leaders. We have people who are actually, Okia Umtata, for example. He openly calls out, leaders or institutions of the government that do not defend or that do not respect or even uphold.
And
the
we've seen
values of
even
this
more people now
constitution.
coming in and playing their role and also defending it for sure. But it needs to get to a point where we rally everyone.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Ata from, and even in those different, when it moves from the national level to the county level, you're still
Even
defending.
at the county level, you
You're-
have to defend. Mkisikia ati sijui governor ameiba pesa ngapi nini. That one has contravened the constitution because he's there to do some things that have been prescribed other
Wajua.
than stealing from the public.
Mbunge anaitisha helicopter badala ya kujenga hospitali. Defend this thing, my people, baze.
Yes, it is ours.
So
it's one thing to accept, but it's another. We have another duty.
yeah.
An obligation is a duty. And it is a duty that is a must.
We
are bound.
You have to do it, whether
Yes.
you like it or not.
So respect this constitution, uphold it, and defend it.
Yeah. And one thing, despite of us even talking about upholding it and defending it, people need to respect it because you first and foremost, you need to respect. You can't respect something that you don't know.
Yeah.
If I don't know anyone from your friends and you ask me to defend them, I won't necessarily defend them because I don't know them. Sasa nam defend kama nani. So we really need to think about when it comes to matters of defending and upholding and
And
respecting
I think
it.
already we are seeing some Kenyans at the limelight. Kenyans who are defending this. Like, for example, what you've brought up, the conversations that are going on in Kenya right now.
Yeah.
Amend versus implement. Shouldn't we implement first? Then we amend.
Yeah.
So those people are basically trying to defend this constitution as it is. Actually, baki venye iko, let's implement it.
Yeah.
They're defending this constitution.
Because we agreed on something in 2010 and you're here coming to tell us that I think we should change it. We haven't even done anything about like, we boss, wacha jokes kwanza. Si kwanza tuifanye ndio utuambia iwak. Ulikuwa unasema tuna agree nayo kabla haijawaka kwa nini?
Yeah.
Hiyo kitu umetoa, the constitution itself hujai defend kwanza when it comes to matters to do with inclusivity, lakini unataka kubring in a new way of inclusivity. Niko like, bro, lakini si tumalize kwanza inclusivity yenye tumeandika kwanza tuiimplement ndio tujue it's making sense for us.
Yeah.
Where it's not making sense, like where are you getting your reports from if you haven't done anything from what we agreed on in 2010? That's all the kind of things that I'm saying, and that's the part where I'm saying at some point also for us we also need to respect the constitution such that when they come with such things we know that we have respected the constitutions as ourselves first and agreed as all Kenyans to respect it, such that when they bring those ideas that they have in their heads and they're experts, it's not a point of Kenya tu alikaa chini mtaani wakaona ikiendelea.
Yeah.
They actually agree that, we've actually sat down and decided to put these things because they just need some like some rectifying tu imetoka tu from a small part, but not like at we have this other big thing that we want to drop in here and remove the other one because it makes sense for us. That shouldn't be the case. And any attempt to establish a government otherwise than
in compliance with this constitution is unlawful. So a government can only be established in accordance with the constitution.
Yeah.
And what does the constitution provide? Elections.
Yes.
A government is established based on elections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things that
so
was
like I said, Mrs. Mka one day to the next asema Timoni president. Kwani
was
he democratically
so umekuja na watu wako 5 million strong na umesema the LC the people's president.
Elections. The constitution tumesema sovereign power must be exercised in accordance with the constitution. So you can see even here it's talking a government that is established otherwise than in accordance with the constitution. Inasema compliance, which is also in accordance
for sure
with the constitution. That government is unlawful. So tukiamua sasa leo LC president, Timo vice president, Kevo minister, that just it's not lawful. We just can't storm into parliament at now we have power.
Yeah. So
everything should be done in accordance with the constitution.
Like with all these things that occupy parliament.
So basically mnakumbuka tu venye tukiwa primary sijui kulikuwa na school rules, sijui this is how you should do, you should be at school by this time. When as you live your life in Kenya as a free person, there are rules.
Then
constitution.
The rules we are.
You're under the constitution.
Which we
but
are the ones.
we are the ones that gave this constitution power. But once we gave it power to be above us.
And whoever we put there represents us.
Yeah.
People, as short as chapter 1 is and as important and heavy as it is also, it was important to start from there. I think this is one of those things. If we don't do this, I mean, chapter 1 is always like also just... I don't know why. I feel like also the preamble is just somewhere inside there. When you put chapter 1, you have to put it with the preamble there so that people understand the heaviness and the impact of this document before they move on and read the rest of it. Because whatever is there is what will guide them as they go down. Because that specific part, when we're talking about upholding, defending, respecting it, is important because as you go into the other chapters, this is what you will be looking at as you consider all the things that we do in the Constitution. And I think that's important for us. Us just taking time and going through chapter 1 without even starting rushing down to the other chapters was important for people. I think me, as my parting shot is, 1, do people respect? Let me ask them personally, do you respect the Constitution? Do you uphold it? Do you defend it? And if so, how? If you don't even know about it, you can't respect, uphold, and defend something that you don't know. And that's why every other individual will come any day and give you something new to add on to it without you knowing what you're putting yourself up to. Parting shot, mtu wangu.
My parting shot will be the Article 1:1. Know that sovereign power belongs to you in your capacity as one of the people of Kenya. In fact, this power is shared. People, it's collective. The people of Kenya. But remember, you have to exercise this power in accordance with the Constitution. Now, for you to even exercise this power, make sure you understand this document because it is for us. It is ours. We gave it power. So keep listening to our podcast. You'll get to learn more and more. But if you want to go an extra mile, go ahead and get the Constitution and actually read it yourself.
Publication is free.
Yeah. It's everywhere. It's on the internet.
Law Society of Kenya is always giving it for free.
Kenya
Law is giving it for free. You can download it on your phone, on your tablet, on your laptop. Some non-governmental organizations are also
distributing
them for free.
Yeah, so
you have no excuse.
Yeah, don't just think that this is a document for the lawyers. It is not for the lawyers and it is not just for the politicians. It is for you, the ordinary Kenyan, because it actually dictates how you live your life as an ordinary Kenyan.
How can we pass something and then pass something only for the lawyers and politicians? That does it called jokes.
Imagine.
Guys, it's been a good one. Proactive on all platforms, listening platforms. But if you struggle with finding them on these platforms, you just go to acute.co.ke. That's acute with a Q. And the / is on Proactive. Listen to also all the other shows that we have there on the website. And I look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.